Agenda is a report on our closed session. Earlier this evening, the council did have a closed session, but we took no reportable action. And with that, our next item are changes to the order of the agenda. So I will look to my colleagues on the dais and ask if anyone would like to suggest a change to the order. Okay, seeing nothing, let's move on to our special items, which is a recognition of our 2024 Annual Employee Award winners.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Irene Barragan, HR Director for the City of Los Altos. I have the privilege of having a responsibility to oversee our recognition program. So I'm here today to introduce to you our 2024 nomination results and the individuals that were nominated by their peers as a part of our recognition program. As you know, for the past 3 years, under the great leadership of our city manager, we have been building a culture of appreciation at all levels of our organization. We strongly believe that recognition does impact not only retention, attraction, and encourages high performance. And as you will see today by several of our employees, that is the result of a lot of our high performers. We sent out our nomination process to all the cities. So this is a peer-to-peer employee recognition program. And out of the program, we received a total of 33 nominations. Out of the 33 nominations, which was a very competitive process through our committee, I am happily able to announce our award recognition categories. So we have 3 categories. We have the Rising Star, we have an exemplary job performance, and we have Employee of the Year. So as I say your name, please come to the front so we can recognize them. For the Rising Star Award, this one was very challenging because we had so many great nominations, so we selected 2 employees. The Rising Star is someone that is a new addition to the team who has shown significant contributions in a very short period of time with the City of Los Altos. So in this category, we awarded the nomination to Alan Bruce, who is our Recreation Facilities Coordinator for the Parks and Recreation Department. If you don't mind coming over here. And joining him today is Taylor Soleno, Deputy City Clerk for the Office of the City Managers. In our next category is exemplary job performance. So this is someone that performs all core of their job duties in an extraordinary way and demonstrates their commitment to the City of Los Altos. In this category, we have Jamani Bridges, Maintenance Lead Worker for the Public Works Department. And in our last category is Employee of the Year. So that title alone speaks well. It's the person who goes above and beyond expectations to drive results and contributions positively to the Los Altos culture. And I'm proud to announce Andy Kim as our IT analyst selected for Employee of the Year. In addition to recognizing, we also gave them some awards during our event, which we'll be showing a small clip today that recognizes all their efforts and contributions throughout the year. So we'll take a few minutes to see a video to recognize all the wonderful events that we did this year. Thank you. Council, if you don't mind taking some pictures with our nominees this way, if you guys don't mind standing here for some picture opportunities. Thank you. Would you please come down?
To all four of our winners and really the entire city staff, I know that I speak on behalf of the entire council when I say thank you very, very much for all the hard work you do. We all truly appreciate it. The residents of Los Altos do too. So thank you very, very much. Okay. The next item of business on our agenda is public comments for items that are not on the agenda. If you are here tonight to speak about the dog park, this is not the appropriate time for this. But if you would like to make a comment on anything that we wouldn't otherwise be discussing tonight, now is the time to do so. So I will look, Madam City Clerk, do we have any?
We have one speaker, Teresa Morris.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Hello, Teresa Morris. I'm on the Park and Rec Commission, but every time I speak tonight, I will not be speaking as a commissioner, and I'll remember to say it. I just wanted to take a minute. It's interesting that tonight was the recognition night for staff because I didn't know that. I wanted to come in and do a couple of compliments. So I feel like often we get a lot of complaints about our staff, but I have to say interacting with the Park and Rec staff is always a pleasure. And I feel very honored when I do volunteer work with that department. I also wanted to put out kudos to maintenance this week. Gabe, our city manager, and some of the maintenance people showed up at the wooden bridge in Loyola Corners, which has been an ongoing issue, and I'm hoping it someday gets done and rebuilt. And they closed it without neighbors knowing about it, and there's sort of a dangerous situation in the street for walking and bicycles to share a narrow space. So we as residents got together and came up with a solution, but with Gabe leading and with maintenance working with Gabe on that. So I really appreciate when we have those sorts of things. I also have some concerns that I'm going to pop in really quickly. I've noticed a high turnover, and I have a concern about the high turnover of staff. I do think it takes a toll on the staff, so that's one thing. The other is I have concerns about things like when there's a notice posted for the orchard, the 25 trees at the police department being put up at the last minute before a holiday. So my two concerns on that is, one, residents don't have the opportunity if they're out of town to know about such things. And the second is that our staff then is burdened with residents being upset and appeals being filed and so on holiday weekends or leading up to a holiday weekend. And that concerns me because that puts a burden on staff that then makes it hard for them to necessarily like working in our city. So I would ask that as the managers of the team, that you maybe think about how we can do that differently as a city so that our staff isn't having to deal with angry residents, upset residents, disappointed residents at those times. But overall, I'm just thrilled about, how my interaction with the staff and how things are going. So thanks for the time.
Thank you.
I have no other speaker cards.
Okay. Then our next item of business is the consent calendar. Tonight, I think we have, 10 items on consent. In a moment, I'm going to open it up for public comment. If you would like to make a comment on any of the 10 items on consent, this will be the time to do so. Even if a council member asks that an item be taken off of consent, we will not reopen public comment when we take up that item. So with that, I will ask if there are any members of the public who would like to speak on consent. Madam City Clerk, any cards?
I have no speaker cards for consent.
Okay, then I will look at my colleagues and see if anyone would like to remove anything.
I just have to make an amendment to the minutes before we vote on it.
Okay,
On the minutes regarding the public hearing, it said that the motion was carried unanimously by roll call vote, and I recalled voting no on that item. So I can send you the part on the video I watched again, and all I need is for that to be corrected, and I'm okay with making that correction and voting on the rest.
We could do this one of two ways. I can watch the video to confirm, and if so, correct the minutes appropriately. Otherwise, we could bring the minutes back for the next date. It's up to council.
I think the first option is the best option.
Okay, I will
And would
do
you
that.
please let the council know what?
I will follow up,
after
and
you
the
confirm that.
corrected minutes will be uploaded to the website.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Meadows.
I don't have, I don't want to pull anything, but I do want to clarify. Item number 4 in the consent calendar is actually not listed in the consent calendar itself, but it is an actual staff report and an item. So in case anyone else from the public was puzzled like I was, consent item number 4 is adopt resolution 2024- whatever, approving an updated fiscal year 2024-25 pay schedule. So that was in the packet, it just wasn't listed in the consent, and I thought it was worth calling out to make sure we're all clear on that.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. And with that, I will look to my colleagues for a motion. Councilmember Flagger?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve the consent calendar in its entirety, items 1 through 10, with the amendments proposed by Councilmember Lee Eng, which is subject to staff's review and will report back to council.
Second.
Councilmember Liang,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Flagger,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Daley,
Yes.
Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. Our next item of business is Agenda Item 11. The council will receive a presentation on the Hillview Park Permanent Dog Park Conceptual Design Preferred Plan and provide staff with further direction, including action to move forward with construction documents and project schedule. So Director Hernandez, will you be presenting tonight?
Yes, yes, we will. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Weinberg and City Council. My name is Manny Hernandez, Parks and Recreation Director, and I'll be presenting along with a representative from Verde Design, Andreas. And so he will help in the presentation that we're going to open up right now. And this is on the dog park. So some time ago, several months back, we contracted with Verde to put together a conceptual design for a permanent dog park here at Hillview Park. They went through many steps in the process, which we'll take you through in the presentation that's coming up. We've heard from the public in many different fashions, as you'll see, and we do have a recommended design that we will show you now at this time in the presentation. So, Andreas, he will show us as soon as I can share this. Sorry. Is it sharing? There it is. Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and, Andres, I'll go ahead and change the slides. You can go.
So this presentation. Yes. Thank you, Manny, for the introduction. Yeah, again, Andres Regato with Verde Design. I was working with Manny on the concept design for the Hillview Dog Park. This presentation is going to outline the process of how we got to the design that we will present at the end of this. So again, this project consisted of public outreach. The public basically gave us some input on what they wanted to see in their dog park. We took all of that input and created some design concepts, got some more feedback from the community, and we took all that feedback and developed the final concept master plan, which we call the preferred plan. Here was the project schedule. Part 1 consisted of the community meeting, number 1. We did some pop-up meeting in downtown Los Altos at the Market West Los Altos event. We also had an online survey to get input from the community that were unable to attend those in-person events. Concept development was part 2. We also got some feedback from the community after those concept development to create the preferred plan in part 3. So again, project introduction. What is a dog park? Obviously, a dog park is a place for dogs and dog owners to have a space for socialization and generate more community. Slide. Here's a diagram showing the dog parks in the area. The area in blue is the Hillview Dog Park. You can see it kind of fills that void in the area. Here's a site analysis of the Hillview Park. You'll see here the vehicular route in yellow and all of the programs of the site highlighted in different colors. Here is our site for the dog park space in blue. Existing photos of the existing conditions. You can see kind of a rambunctious landscape. This is the site that is proposed for the dog park.
And I'll go ahead and add that you may see it looks a little different right now because of the construction of the generator location.
So at the beginning of this project, we looked at the site opportunities and constraints. This map here outlines the proposed square footage of the dog park, and it also shows the existing programs as circulation, parking, and adjacent bus barn theater. So for part 1, as I mentioned earlier, we did some community outreach. We did 2 listening meetings in person here at the community center. We had 1 pop-up event, and then we had 2 online surveys. So here is community meeting number 1, where we met with the community to present and outline some potential programs for this dog park space. The outcome from community meeting number 1 was the shade with seating and rain cover, some visual screening with landscape, all-weather surfacing, multiple entrances, and large dog and small dog areas. Here is some information from the pop-up event. We presented pretty much similar programs to the public during that market in downtown Los Altos. The community was able to vote for the programs that they favored more in green, and they put red dots on the programs where they felt were not applicable to this project. The outcome of the pop-up event, the higher votes came out to be drinking fountains for dogs and humans, planting in trees for shade, open space for playing fetch, a rules signage, trash bins, and bag dispensers. So again, for those who were unable to attend the in-person meetings and public outreach, they had the opportunity to provide their input through an online survey. And again, the outcome from the online survey from the first round was dog park signage, security cameras, handicap access, maintenance and odor control, and pedestrian and spectator area. So we consolidated all the results from both the in-person meetings and the online survey results, and this was the outcome. The highest scored was drinking fountains, followed by stumps and climbing, agility features, water features, leash racks, dog wash station, a community board, and some art features at the very bottom. Again, consolidated results for these surface materials. Here you'll see that the natural turf scored the highest, followed by synthetic turf, mulch, decomposed granite, and pea gravel and sand.
So I'll go ahead and speak on the next slide. Just to, if we go back to the previous slide, what I just want to show is this wasn't really just a vote of popularity. We wanted to see what the public wanted as far as top surfaces. So staff went ahead and took these results and then actually synthesized them by going to other agencies, looking at other sample dog parks and other uses, and actually going out and looking at manufacturers' cut sheets on production of mulch and natural turf and synthetic turf as well. So what we came to, as you'll see in the preferred plan, spoiler here, is artificial turf would be included as one of the surfacing materials. And the reason that we like the artificial turf as one of the main surface materials is for about these three reasons that I have up on the slide here. So maintenance, we've talked to other agencies, and actually some of us, myself included, have experience with dog parks and surfacing materials. And the maintenance is less expensive in the long run of doing a daily maintenance of actually sending staff out there and doing things if you use artificial turf. Artificial turf, you do have to replace it at some point, but the maintenance is a lot better because it stays consistent. Now that goes into item number 2 of the reason that we like it, is its consistency. The mud puddles are less if you're not putting natural grass or not putting any decomposed granite surfaces or something. You won't have puddles. It'll be easier access and more consistent for wheelchairs and walkers, and to make sure everyone's included on that, and even for kids. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually hit the button. The other reason is dog paw comfort. Actually speaking to our neighbor Mountain View, they actually tried a dog park, I believe with some kind of wood chips, and I don't know if they were actual wood. I would imagine that they were probably the manufactured fibers, and that was uncomfortable to many dogs. Many dog owners said those fibers were going in between the dog's paws. So something that we did not want to consider there. Other surfaces such as concrete or DG, they do get hot. And then we found that some dog owners find that those surfaces are hot on the dog's paws as well. So that's the main reason, as you'll see, of why we chose the synthetic turf to be part of that.
So here are just some images of some of the programs that were shown on those poster boards during the pop-up event, as well in the presentation during the community outreach process. Here you'll see some agility features for the dog park that could be included. Next slide. Again, some additional programs for site furnishings, dog wash station, drinking fountain, seating for dog owners and other visitors, as well as dog bag dispensers and landscape boulders for aesthetics. Some more program elements here, some trash and recycling receptacles, some fencing, some art accent fencing, and some shade structures. And of course, the landscape aspect of it, we got some shade trees, ornamental trees, screening shrubs, ground covers, fragrant planting, and planting for stormwater treatment. So from the community outreach, we gathered all their input, we saw the votes, and we gathered all the consolidated results, and we developed 2 concepts. Here's Design Concept A. Design Concept A consists of the entry plaza at the northeastern corner, closer to the vehicular circulation and adjacent to the library parking lot. We have the large dog area on the north side, the small dog area on the south side. The community really emphasized that they wanted to separate the 2 spaces, and this is what was the outcome from that first outreach process. Design Concept B, the difference here is the entry plaza is in the center. Still have a small dog area and a large dog area, The difference is that the agility zone is only provided in the large dog / all dog area. And there's a little bit of concern there because some of the small dogs would feel excluded from not being able to access the agility zone. Next slide. So at community outreach number 2, we presented these two concepts and got some feedback from the community. Some of the feedback we received was regarding the corner entrance and sub-vestibules, the separate agility areas, the open space dog runs, separate large dogs and small dog areas, and more benches and less tables.
So that'll bring us to our preferred plan. So now what you're looking at on this slide is the version that we've come up as the preferred plan. So hearing all that input and going through that process, this preferred plan has the entry plaza, as you can see in the south side, that what we're thinking is having that encourage people to park in the bigger parking lot in front of the community center and coming just across the walkway, which goes in front of the theater, to get into the very large entry plaza. And there's some features in the entry plaza before the dogs even get in, which I'll show you in just a moment. The agility zone, as you see, was moved to the center. So both small dog and all dog areas have access to it. And there's 2 little play areas in the corners of each of those areas. You notice the benches along the south and the west side fences. They're pulled away from the fence because dogs like running along the fence, chasing balls along the fence and stuff like that. So those are placed in those areas. Once again, more benches can be added, some other things could be changed, but this was the concept. So I'm going to zoom in on some of the sections now. Your entry plaza is one area. You're going to have, you're looking at your surfacing material of permeable pavers in those areas. Your accessible seating once you get into the small dog and all dog areas. And then you'll have a concrete path that bisects the entire park to go all the way across to the back corner area. The small dog area, there's your small dog area, your entrance. You once again have accessible tables, you have shade structure, and you have an adventure area play zone there. There's your agility zone, as I was speaking of, that has access, as you see the 2 gates, access to the all dog and small dog areas. And then your long run and your throw zone there for the all dog areas. Once again, it's not a big dog area. We're not excluding small dogs. This is for all dogs, but if smaller dogs feel comfortable or owners feel comfortable, more comfortable in a small dog area, you can go and use the small dog only area. Now the alternative, there is one alternative to this, is actually taking the fence down and not having it separated. So that's what we've decided. There are probably some adjustments we can make to this to make it look like a bigger space once we go into final design for this before we go to construction, if this is approved. But at this time, we're just proposing the preferred plan or a plan that has no split fence. So with that, I wanted to mention to council that this did go to the Parks, Art, Recreation, Culture Commission at the regular meeting, and some of the comments are included here. Most of their comments are included in the report, but they feel that the commission spoke and said good overall dog park design, attractive large entrance area, decorative fencing would be recommended, and irrigation and quick couplers for possible surface cleaning if needed. And they voted unanimously to recommend this to City Council. And there's your master plan one more time. And now towards the end of this, as the next few slides will be regarding parking. So one concern that we did hear at the commission meetings regarding the dog park is that dog park is going to sit on an auxiliary parking space or parking area across from the library that has about 16 spaces. So in this 16 spaces, we've worked with the traffic engineers that we have here, and they put together a plan to add parking in these 3 areas at the government center to make up for those 16 lost spaces. And the general plan would start in Area 1. Area 1, as you can see, the parking spaces that would be added there, I believe it's a total of 8 parking spaces, or 6 parking spaces, sorry. 6 parking spaces immediately alongside where the lost 16 spaces would be, if not closer to the library entrance. And then spaces 7 and 8 would be taking over a DG island right there, and we would relocate a bike rack that's currently there right now. So that would be adding 8 spaces immediately adjacent to the library. In section 2, or area 2, we would be able to add 1 more space in an island onto the upper part of this parking lot right there, the northern part, on the bottom end of the library, or the east end of the library, that is immediately adjacent to the walkway that goes into the back entrance of the library. And then we're proposing that we add several more spaces, I think totaling 29 spaces total. So these 20 spaces would be put adjacent to the police department and go along that immediately across from the soon-to-be expansion of City Hall at Lacey. And that would be designated for employee parking. The thought being is the library employees would be able to be directed to park there to actually create more parking space closer to the library. So that is a recommended plan for parking. And with that, that concludes our presentation, and Andres and I can answer any questions, clarifying questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation, and thank you very much for the work that you've gone through in working with the community and presenting these options to us. So I will look to my colleagues and see whether or not anyone has any questions for staff. So, Vice Mayor.
We received several comments from various members of the public with concern, specifically. We received several comments from various members of the public with specific concern about artificial turf. And my understanding is that there have been some important advances. I know that years ago, old tires were used as infill for the turf and things like that. And I know that the manufacturing has changed, and I was hoping that you could sort of answer some of those questions that the public put to us about that their concerns about the safety of artificial turf.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Daley. What I can say through my research at this time is, and I did see many of those comments, if not all of them, and all of those comments. Some of those comments were accurate in the sense that they were referring to old technology. So you are correct in that. Also, they were accurate in the reference to sport fields as well. So some of those sports fields, and it's old technology and old sports fields. So there are reports out there of old fields being tested for certain contaminants to groundwater and stuff. We have not installed turf yet. So in my research for some of the latest turf, there are definitely options. There are plant-based options. There are infill options. There are no infill options. So there are many things. There's non-toxic, environmentally friendly materials, USDA certified bio-based products, as well as IR reflective heat reduction. So that's also helping, the infrared, so to reduce heat, because some of those comments came on, oh, this is bad for the dogs because it's hot. So I can say those products are out there. If we go with a basic material that you can get for a very low cost, I would not recommend that. This is going to be a very nice park. I do anticipate it, and staff anticipates it will be popular. So we want to put a good product out there, and I would recommend going with one of those more advanced technological products.
Thanks.
Anyone else on council? Councilmember Meadows.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation and all the work that you've done and that the commission has done. I know we have a number of commissioners here tonight. So I'd like a little bit more detail, because you gave us information I think the public should know. So tell us about, plant-based turf, or this is some biomaterial. I mean, tell us more about this product that you're recommending. I mean, to me, if it's bio-based, Does that mean it decomposes more frequently and we have to replace it more often? Does a bio-based product not release the PFAS and the other noxious chemicals that people are concerned about? Tell us a little bit more technically about it if you can, because I suspect what you're saying is this new technology doesn't do what a lot of our commenters replied. But I still, if you can provide more detail, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Matos. I'll do my best. So without, and I know this, the city attorney is probably going to keep a close eye on me, without actually naming any products.
Right, okay.
I can't name any products, but I did provide a list of features that these products contain, as I was saying. And these are I just received these from the sales areas of these products, of these companies. So I don't have cut sheets on them and what they do, but many of the products now, because there is a concern, environmental concern. And the old ground tire and the old way that they used to make the plastic fibers for these grafts, that is still in existence, but it is an option to get things that aren't that anymore, that they won't contaminate groundwater, that there is certain things that will keep antimicrobial products as well to keep people healthy, because I know there's a fear of that too. So I don't have cut sheets on that. I don't have explicit details, but it's something that if this project does go forward, that we will research to get the best product possible and scope that out for proper bidding.
Okay, so city attorney or city manager, so council could potentially give direction to use certain kind of materials if that would be appropriate in the discussion. Okay, thank you. A couple other questions. I saw that some people brought up, and we've heard this for a while, I don't think it's true, but I'd like you to confirm or not, that are any trees going to be removed for the dog park?
For the dog park, no.
Okay.
No.
So are any trees going to be removed from, let me ask this different. Are any apricot trees going to be removed for the parking spaces?
The way it's set up right now, what was presented, there is a possibility that there is 1 or 2 trees that could be removed from that apricot area. However, if there's modifications to the parking plan, as you see, we'll lose 16 spots for the dog park, but add 29. Modifications can be made to preserve those trees if necessary.
Okay, so, but the dog park itself requires absolutely, and some of the public may not have followed that some of the trees were removed for safety reasons already a year ago. So some of the comments may be kind of out of date, but I just wanted that to be clear. So the dog park is precipitating no removal of trees, correct?
At this point, correct, yes.
And parking may or may not require the removal of a tree or 2, but again, that is something that could be given direction on.
Yes.
Okay. One other question is, with these potentially modern, fake turf, I hate that term, whatever, these modern turf alternatives you're suggesting, are they easier to keep clean and to spot what needs to be cleaned? One thing with our current pilot natural turf / mud dog park is that the dog owners don't sort of monitor the poop, and it's there. So with the solution that you're proposing, since it will maintain its turf-like nature, will it be easier to spot what needs to be cleaned up than with our degraded, no longer natural turf existing dog park?
In theory, yes. It's
yeah.
pretty obvious. And actually, the beauty of what we've done with our pilots and temporary dog runs right now, I've been out to McKinsey several times. This is part of the research that we did to prepare this presentation for council. But actually going out to McKinsey, I've spoken to some dog owners, and actually a few of them have told me that the turf area that we've put in is their dog's favorite area, and they love it because when their dog does poop, it's obvious where it is and to pick it up. And we'll have better technology at the turf if this project goes forward.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's my questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Flagger.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Mr. Hernandez, and the representative from Verde Design for the presentation. I do want to compliment Councilmember Meadows for her artful way of asking about the cleanup process. So I have a couple questions, and I'll start with the cost breakdown, because I've been asked that question with a budget of $1 million, which I know a lot of residents have asked about. Do we have a cost breakdown or an estimate of how much the different features will cost, the training area, just so we have an idea? Because I'm assuming tonight part of the direction you're looking for from council is what parts or elements of this dog park, assuming there's still majority or more support to move forward with the dog park, what elements do we want you to move forward with exploring and possibly doing RFPs and other sourcing processes for? So do we have a cost breakdown of these different elements and features of this proposed or preferred plan?
We do have an engineer's estimate of the components of that. Verde did put that as part of their contract, put that together for us.
And will we get an opportunity? So for example, all these features sound wonderful. But just from a cost perspective, if there are features, for example, that because of the cost, council may say, let's not bother with that feature, right? Will we get an opportunity to weigh in on those features?
I believe we possibly could, but at this point with the preferred plan, staff could probably set those aside and present it to council as add alternates too. But once the budget is set, staff will work to stay within that budget.
Okay. Because as you recall, Mr. Hernandez, with the community center, that we had that process where there were different elements that council was able to weigh in and say, you know, looking at the cost, let's not go forward with that because they were working within a budget. And they were actually, I remember there was a meeting where they were trying to reduce the budget. So I'm curious, and we can talk about that, I guess, in the discussion portion on whether or not we can weigh in, because if there are features that, you know, majority or more of council members may decide they don't want to pursue for different reasons, I'm curious if we'll get an opportunity to weigh in there. On the visual screening, the trees for the preferred master plan, do we have yet, like, the anticipated height of these trees, what that visual screening on the side of the library would look like? Because again, that is a concern about ensuring that we have that screening between the dog park and the library. And I'm curious, do we have a height or any distribution of the types of trees? It's going to be low plants, or we think about high, tall trees?
No, and I'll ask Andreas on this one. There's recommended heights, but the species and stuff, those will be decided once we get into construction documents. But I believe in speaking with the other engineer, or excuse me, the architect, we're talking about low level to screen the dogs from seeing things. We're recommending a 5-foot fence, but I don't think I'm wrong with that one, right?
That's correct. Yeah, 5-foot fence, which will be see-through, which could be screened with shrubs that grow up to about 5 feet plus or minus, and trees are more provided for shade.
Okay. And there will not be a gate or any kind of exit or entrance on that side of the proposed dog park. Is that correct?
We're looking at that as an option. I know some of the feedback that we received in through this process was emergency exits if somebody feels uncomfortable, cornered by a dog. We will have access for maintenance access gate already, but we may have a panic bar access as well. But we're going to look into that as well on the backside, emergency exit only type of thing. So, but that is a possibility. But yeah, the main entrance would be the only entrance at this point.
Okay. And then I'm curious with the agility training, the small dogs being on that side, and I'll just let you know why I'm asking these questions. I've heard from a lot of library patrons who are concerned about the noise impact on the library. And so I'm trying to understand how can we alleviate that concern with screening and barriers and reducing the number of foot traffic going in the direction of the library. So I'm really trying to understand what that side of the dog park will look like. So for example, you know, would it be better if the agility training and those things are on the other side, on the Hillview soccer field side, as opposed to on the library side, just from a noise perspective?
Thank you for that input, actually. That's really good. And that's something we can look at when we create the documents for construction. We'll look at and take the noise into consideration as well if we think that's going to help. But obviously, through this process, we've moved the entrance and the traffic, tried to generate the traffic on the inside of the dog park rather than the outside. So.
And I know that was appreciated. And that's my last question. That entryway that now goes alongside the entry to our current Bus Barn Theater, what will be the separation between that entry path? And I like the idea of it leading directly to the community center parking lot. But do we know yet what the separation will be, both in material and distance between the Bus Barn Theater entrance and this walkway that leads to the dog park?
No, I'm sorry. We haven't looked at, because that's outside of the scope of what we're presenting right now, as far as the walkway.
Right.
So because we may improve that area to make it wider, because as Bus Barn gets out and dog owners are going back,
Exactly.
we don't want them using the same pathway. So that has been considered,
Okay.
and we will be looking to make improvements on that.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Follow up to Councilmember Flyer's questions.
Okay.
What's your understanding of the time in which the Bus Barn is in use versus the time in which there's traffic at the dog park? Time of day. Do you think there's much conflict?
I couldn't say that. I don't know that right now, because based on our dog parks, I don't think there's going to be a lot of conflict during the week. I'm not sure the usage during the weekends on our dog parks, but what I can tell you is staff anticipates that this is going to be busier than the dog parks that we do have. So we'd have to look a little more into other dog parks and other really local dog parks that are built and designed like this more to see the traffic there. But no, I really couldn't guess what that traffic would be like right now for a dog park.
Yeah, the reason I ask is that most of the productions are at night when the dog park is not in use. There are some matinee productions, but generally speaking, based on the time of day, there's not a lot of conflict.
Councilmember Liang?
Just to clarify, I don't think was there a time that we closed our dog parks? Because during the summer, I know that there's a lot of people that use the dog parks late into the evening. So can you help me understand that?
At this point, unless there's a push to change things and add lighting to it, they would go off of the same hours as our parks. They would close with our parks.
Okay. So as we hear from the public a lot, there is concern that maybe we should revisit moving forward on Mackenzie first. Would that be an option to really consider having Mackenzie be the option that we move forward on because it's more centrally located and we can better determine and not affect parking here? And so that's the question for me to ask you first, and then I'll ask my other questions.
I'm sorry.
Because
the question-
this is everything conceptual, right? And we haven't had construction drawings. It's cheaper now that if we decide to move and do Mackenzie first, could we do so?
We could. Mackenzie is actually in the queue as far as on our CIPs to do. There are certain upgrades we can do, but we're definitely limited at Mackenzie. There's no disabled parking, or excuse me, accessible parking there, as well as we're limited with the parking in general because of other uses. But just regarding this dog park, it would be based on priority for council.
Okay. I want to ask that question because we're posed that question by a lot of the
understand.
community members. So if it's in the queue, when will it be taken off as a pilot? Because I noticed in all your documents, you've got it listed as a pilot. So when will it be taken off as a pilot?
I've taken off as a pilot. Staff still needs to go through that process for Mackenzie.
Okay.
Yeah, to evaluate bandwidth.
Okay. And then I was noticing that we're talking about parking a lot here today as well. But I don't see how, when we agendized the item, it was the subject was permanent dog park preferred plan recommendation. But we really didn't identify that we're also going to be talking about the parking, but yet parking has been coming up a lot on these slides here, and we're talking about these lots here. So how do we know? My concern is whether it was properly noticed so people can understand the parking area, the effects of parking on this project.
Yes, I think this is really a question for the city attorney. Madam City Attorney, was this item agendized sufficient that we can talk about the parking part of the?
Yes, because it's
CIP?
part of the whole Hillview Park, and it's more, and really what's on the item tonight, on the agenda tonight is Hillview Park and not McKinsey. But I let that go because it was leading to Hillview. But Hillview Park includes conceptual plans, those plans include the parking, and I think we need to keep it to Hillview Park tonight. And
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember?
So then I guess you're saying, yes, we can talk about parking replacement tonight as well. So,
at the
And-
Hillview plans, with the Hillview plans, like the drawing showed. or
right,
the- Yeah.
I see it, like the area 1, 2, and 3. I understand that. And so then, I guess then my question is, when this design comes back about parking, we're trying to exempt CEQA here, but yet we really don't understand the impacts of parking and when are we going to get a good study, so then that way we can mitigate some of the concerns that we may have regarding
Okay,
protected trees, traffic, and noise.
Mr. City Manager, my understanding is that the council has already approved this CIP. Are we bringing other aspects like parking back to council, or has this now already been approved and it's in the budget?
Mayor, it's in the budget. Council can give different direction tonight if it chose to. It could ask for an example to bifurcate parking and bring that back, but it is approved in the budget and it's presented in the plan tonight.
Thank you.
Right,
Councilmember?
okay, Mr. City Manager, I understand we approved the budget. The budget is to allocate funds for projects, but it doesn't mean just because we allocated funds for project that it's a blanket approval for these projects. Is that correct?
That's correct. The council
Thank
could
you.
bifurcate
And
parking and
this
bring
is
it back.
why we need to ask the questions that we do, and I appreciate that opportunity for me to do so. So, can you please bring up preferred master plan, preferred master plan A design, and then can we have it on the screen?
Yes, I'll pull that up in just.
Which one do you want? Do you want the site plan illustrative? Do you want the entry
Site
plaza?
plan
Do you want the?
illustrative, thank you.
You're talking about the parking, right? Is that what you're looking for?
No, this one first, and then I'll
Oh,
go back
okay.
into the parking after. I'm gonna go through my different phases that I want to address. If
Okay,
you want
here's
me
the
to do
preferred master
parking, I can
plan.
do parking, but I'll go back to dog park stuff. So, the entry plaza is at the bottom, because you said you wanted to have access into the larger parking. If we flipped it and put the entry plaza at the top part of the small park, small park flip, because when we talk about easy access for ADA purposes, because you said you would have to create ADA parking, because right now we don't have ADA parking for that entrance to access there. So I was concerned making sure we had ADA parking access, and I think it would be easier if the entry plaza was on the top here. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I.
Because
I
it's
think
right
so.
there where the parking lot. It's hard because I don't have that screen there. We normally can use a big screen
So-
and I could point to things.
To clarify one thing, though, we do have accessible parking there.
Okay,
Yeah. So at this location, if you're talking about this dog park, we do have accessible parking in the main parking lot.
in the main
which we're- oh,
parking
yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
But
we
then
do.
it would be a distance for someone with ADA abilities,
Yeah,
correct?
and we can add parking that's a little bit closer as well, but it would still be a
Closer.
straight shot. Yeah.
Okay, and then we had an incident at McKenzie Park that required access for emergency vehicles as well as the gurney. So if you can pull up, I guess now the entry plaza, I'd like to ask that we pull that up. I notice the entry plaza is much, quite, spacious. I was wondering if we can shrink that because I think it's more space that we could put into the dog park. In addition, when we get into the gates going to the right and to the left as to access to the park, we have to make a turn towards the right or to the left when we get into the park. Can't we have the access going in straight? Because I think what we're gonna find is like when we have emergency purposes or incidences where we need the gurney to have a straight shot or accessible entries, I wanna make sure the gates are wide enough so we have easy access for, to get these emergency tools in to help the people that needs tools. So I am concerned that we have to go in and turn instead of going straight ahead. The other thing is, and that's why I thought if we flipped it and we put the entry plaza.
Councilman, do you have a question? Because I think this is better saved for
So-
discussion.
So can we flip it? I hope you would look at it and consider that. Then my question is regarding the dog wash station. How many dog parks currently do you know of that has dog wash stations?
I don't have a count of that. I know one of the latest and most recent developed dog park, I believe they call it Reed Park in Santa Clara. We got the idea from them. They have a dog wash station and they do have artificial turf there as well. But they have a dog wash station. So that's what we're going off of some of the latest designs. That's all.
Can you turn off the water at a certain hour?
We would make sure that things are properly have proper shutoffs, but
Okay.
we could look at that.
Yeah, and then then I noticed that you have the dog dispenser in the small dog, access in the small dog area. Is that the same thing that's gonna be in the large dog area? It's in the entryway, but not in the dog park where most people need it?
In general, what I could say is little small items like that, benches, signs, there's been no decision on exactly where those are going to go, but we'll make sure that they're properly distributed through the process of design.
Okay, and then the other question I had was, is, Mr. Magino, if you could assist me in posting, so I was just wondering if we can provide direction to ask that the Park Arts and Cultural Commission participate in looking at projects such as other parks have incorporated.
Okay, Councilman, I think this is also a discussion item. If you could bring it up to the council to see if we want to give direction to.
I
any of our
understand, but I'm
commissions.
asking my question, and I would appreciate some patience here because whenever you guys ask questions, I don't interrupt, and I would just appreciate the same courtesy. And this is my time to ask it, right? Then, because
Ask the
even though
question, please, but
even though I can bring it up during discussion, I get shut down. So I do want to ask it during the question time where I would be allowed to ask it.
So the council can give direction to any commission that it elects to do so. That question really doesn't need to be asked. If you think it's a good idea for this council to give a commission direction, that's something that should be brought up in discussion. And if 3 or more of us agree with you, then that direction will be given.
I know, but it helps when I get a chance to introduce it. Lots of times I get shut down before I get a chance to introduce or talk about stuff. So we're just doing it where it's convenient and
Okay,
safe
but I'd like
for
you to
me.
get your questions out so we can then get to the public and hear public comment.
So I understand that, but I would appreciate an opportunity. Then I'll go to my parking questions. And then, Mr. Magino, you can save that for discussion time, and I'd be ready, appreciate that. So,
Councilmember Lang, before you move to parking, could we address the ADA and the emergency access question, if that's okay?
yes, please.
If we go back to the, so as part of the permitting process, this will have to go through fire permit review. We will have, I see we're circling there on the bottom, we will have emergency access approved by fire as part of the design that won't be part of the entry plaza. With regards to ADA, that will also go through Public Works in this case. So the entrance and the parking lot will both be ADA accessible as required. We do have some opportunity, to your point, if we wanted to add in the upper right corner where you see the white car parked, we could add accessible parking there potentially for a shorter distance. But overall, some of these specific materials get reviewed as part of the approval and entitlement process. So that this is the conceptual drawing, and though we want to keep the elements, the same with council direction, the actual specific construction will look different than this after entitlements are received.
I appreciate that because I appreciate that because I am sensitive to those who are restrictive and have special needs. So thank you for that and for addressing that. And then regarding the parking, if we could address the parking. So when we're making this approval of the conceptual design, I want to make sure that it's not a final approval for this dog park design, because it will be coming back. Is that correct?
That's correct. It'll come back for construction approval.
And then, so at that time, will there be a broader discussion of the parking relocation on the Civic Center property? Or are you saying that by moving forward tonight, then everything you presented here is a go? I just need to understand that because, go ahead and answer that question. I'll answer it with a different question.
No, staff believes that the parking would need to be phased in with the dog park properly because we don't want to build the dog park, lose those 16 spaces, and then try to build parking after you've lost 16 spaces. So there's a process as far as timing. We'll keep council informed of what the plan is, and before we go forward with any kind of construction on the parking or the dog park, council will be well informed on that.
Okay, so when we talk about parking area 1, 2, 3, area 3 may impact some of the apricot orchards and also space for the police department. My concern is, I want to make sure that if we get, I guess, an opportunity to really understand before we move on to like area 3, because I would also like the opportunity for the police department to weigh in on this matter. Because as we look forward to possible redesign of our police department, I want to make sure that it does not impact.
Councilmember, do you have a question? Again, this is more appropriate for comment.
So the question was, okay, so, my thought process is different and how I get to my question is different. I really appreciate if you allow me to do that. And, I let Mr. Daly speak for 22 minutes at a prior meeting and I didn't interrupt him. So I would appreciate the same respect in this manner. And, we have a short meeting tonight and I don't see why you're trying to rush me. So thank you.
So as the mayor, it's my job to make sure that the meeting proceeds
I understand
according
that.
to our norms and procedures. What you are bringing up, I think, is appropriate for the topic, but you're supposed to be asking questions to staff right now.
I
And
think
you're-
differently, and if I think differently because of either how I process things differently, I don't appreciate it, because then you're attacking how I think, and,
So no one is trying to attack how you think. Please
So-
ask your questions.
well, I'm trying to get there.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Hernandez, as we move forward on the parking matter, is it going to be that we come back? Because then we're not going to just approve this area 1, 2, and 3 right here and now. Will we have an opportunity? Okay.
Yes, council will see this again as we go through for approval of construction for this, yes.
Will we have an opportunity, because regarding parking area 3, will we have an opportunity for PD to weigh in?
So Councilmember Liang, this was planned in conjunction with the police department, so that we didn't bring this forward without discussing their current and future needs. So this is being represented by staff as the recommended parking approach. There's not a separate approach or recommendation from the police department.
But the point is that if we need the PD to weigh in, can we have them weigh in?
Again, the police department weighed in on this plan.
They did.
Yes,
So the PD did weigh in on this plan. I'm just asking for clarification. And so you're saying the PD weighed in on this plan. So I was not aware of that, so getting answers to my question is very helpful. I'll reserve other things and incorporate it with my comments. I think you made me lose my spot. Go ahead.
Actually, I'd like to go now.
So I have a follow-up.
Oh, okay, go ahead then.
Yeah, it's a follow-up, Mayor. I just want to clarify something based on what Mr. Hernandez said about what's coming back to council, the construction approval. Because one of my questions, and that's what I just need to understand, one of my questions asked about the different features, because we have approved a budget for the dog park. And so, for example, and I am using the community center as an example, where if we realize that by doing everything, it may exceed the budget council has already approved, and therefore council will say, for example, let's say majority of council says, if it's going to exceed the 1 million, forget the water features. When are we going to have that discussion?
We can, go ahead.
So Councilmember Flagler, council could have that tonight. You could have it as part of the bid documents. We've budgeted $1 million. The construction estimate presented tonight is $560,000 and some change. There's about $180,000 in addition to that's contingency costs and escalation for construction. One of the more interesting things I discovered with the dog parks is the actual features of the dog park are actually minimal compared to things like grading and irrigation and plantings. So we're comfortable we'd stay well within the budget that is set, but council certainly can have the discussion either including cost with amenities or also having the discussion tonight of amenities that you would like not included or something you didn't see that we could add. But I do think the most appropriate time pulling that all together is when we've actually come back for construction documents and we can see, not that this cost is not realistic, but it is an estimate, so we can see kind of a tighter cost on things.
I remember my question, Mayor.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. England.
So the CIP and everything that we approve was based on the dog park. Tonight, I'm seeing things where it affects parking, area 1, 2, and 3. Of course, that's going to cost us money, but we don't have the budget or understanding of the additional costs of all this project is going to really cost the city, and that wasn't included in the CIP. So can I get an understanding of how much this change to areas 1, 2, and 3 will cost us?
Point of clarification, aren't the parking improvements a part of the CIP that was approved for $1 million?
I believe they're a separate CIP funding source. So council had initially approved $1 million in park and lieu, which is what I think Councilmember Liang is referring to. When we looked at the parking improvements, we realized that not all of them could be paid for out of park and lieu. So it's now a separate source of funding, but it's still within the $1 million total.
And it's already been approved in the budget?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So when we approved that $1 million, we didn't identify and say where that $1 million of park in lieu would be spent on parking. So whether it was to improve downtown parking or anything, is this change in one area, 1, 2, and 3, going to suck up the $1 million, or how much of the $1 million is it going to take up?
So it will not suck up the $1 million. It will still be within budget. At this point, we have cost estimates, which we've presented to council. When we go out for construction, we will have better numbers. We're confident we will be well within the total budget that council has adopted and identified.
I think that the trouble is that when we approve it, I can understand approving a dollar amount, but I think this is the time where we really need to understand where our dollars are going and what it was for. So I just needed to know what portion of that budget is going to be used here, and I just need to understand costs. Costs of projects are important to me, and I just needed to understand that better. Thank you.
Okay. Director, can I please ask you to bring up the entry plaza for Preferred Master Plan A? Thank you. So my reading of the diagram is that the dog wash location is essentially that semicircle right smack in the middle of the lopsided hexagon. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. It may be hard to tell because of the scale of this, but it strikes me that a dog wash location there has the potential of disturbing everyone walking in and out. It has the potential of disturbing anyone on the benches. It has the potential of splashing people at the tables. And I'm imagining my colleagues going in there, and Sally's got her 2 Great Danes, and Nisa goes in there with her 3 Newfoundlands. It's great to be able to watch them, but I see an awful lot of wet dogs splashing everywhere. So I wonder if any thought's been given to that, and if that's an appropriate location for a dog wash. Is there any way, or has thought already been given to minimizing the splashback that is likely to occur in kind of a large area?
No, we haven't considered that, but thank you. That's a good suggestion, and we can look into that when we design it.
Okay, thank you. Looking at the alternative master plan, I'm just curious, where did the idea come from to have no fence in between the small dog area and the all dog area?
So there was a desire that we maximize the space for a throw area for dogs, and a lot of people wanted to utilize the entire park. So when we go into final design, if this would be the preferred design of it, I think we'd probably do things a little bit differently to create more space. I've already talked to our project manager, and he has experience with dog parks, and he has some suggestions to make a bigger space. So I think the goal of this essentially was not to have a split dog park. That's all this is saying, is no split dog park, but get as many features as you can still within that. You want a longer throw zone. That's what they're looking for.
Is that sort of what best practices are considered now, or is this just an idea that would give us more room?
Based on the size of the dog park that we have at McKinsey, the current dog run, and just the experience that a lot of dog owners have had, they wanted maximum amount of space. However, best practices right now are having a small dog area. It's better for small dogs to have their own space.
Do you have a recommendation between one or the other?
Staff's recommendation is the preferred plan.
Okay. Let me go back and revisit a topic that Councilmember Meadows brought up earlier. If a dog defecates, then it's the owner's responsibility to clean it up and remove it. We understand that. But if a dog urinates on any of the synthetic turf, where does that liquid go? Can it permeate down through the DG or the synthetic turf? Or is it going to puddle, or how does that, what are the mechanics of that?
There are many layers depending on the product that we get. There's many layers that it has to go through. There's sand layers, there's infill layers, there's non-infill thatch layers. But if we go with a modern product, it will have several layers to treat urine as if it was going through the layers of the ground. Wouldn't have dirt necessarily, but at some point it would hit dirt. But it just depends on however we have that drainage system set up, where water and urine would go through there and be absorbed into the different layers as it goes through.
Okay, then am I correct to say then that if your dog goes number one on the synthetic area, you're not expected to grab a hose and immediately clean it off?
No, and the modern turfs, they're made for that.
Okay. Thank you. Can you please talk a little bit about how the synthetic turf will be cleaned? How often will it be cleaned? What kind of chemicals are going to be used?
Once again, with the product not decided upon yet, there's different manners. There's actually a product which I anticipate would be one of the more expensive products, where they're saying there's no cleaning necessary to do it, and the natural process of the dew and the rain takes care of those things. Many of the products, though, just to make sure the public and the owners of those properties feel safe, they have enzymes, natural enzymes that you can spray on those on a scheduled basis, but I'm not sure what those schedules are offhand. And in general, most dog parks that currently have turf that wouldn't use an enzyme usually rinse off their artificial turf on a regular basis. I used to run a dog park that did exactly that. We didn't have modern turf. That was 12 years ago, 15 years ago that we installed it, but we did actually have quick couplers to turn on the sprinklers at a certain time.
Would you anticipate that to the extent it does need to be cleaned, that synthetic cleaners would be used, or would they be USDA approved, more natural enzyme type cleaners?
No, there was, and that being that it's in a park, it wouldn't fit our IPM. So we cannot use synthetic. Our commission suggested that and was signed. So yes, it would be natural enzymes or any kind of organic products. And I wouldn't use anything that isn't recommended by the manufacturer.
Thank you. Do you have an idea of what the lifespan would be for the synthetic turf, the DG, and the natural turf as well?
The natural turf and the DG could, well, actually, if there's natural turf here, I don't believe there's anything in the recommendation, but natural turf doesn't survive in general in dog parks, especially busy ones. DG can just be repaired on a regular basis. That can last for decades through going through regular repairs. Synthetic turf, I know sports fields, they have a lifespan of 8 to 12 years. I'm not sure exactly what the dog park turf would be warranted for, but we would look in depending on the manufacturer. But I would anticipate at least 8 years, but I'm just throwing that out there based on the synthetic materials that are usually make up sports turfs.
Okay, thank you. Is there a reason that lighting has not been incorporated into the plans?
No, there's no reason other than we just wanted to get this in, and lighting, I think, would have to go through some other processes.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, Mayor. One of the things Parks and Rec is looking at also is introducing solar lighting into park areas, which wouldn't require the same type of infrastructure. So we could always come back and include it later. We're about to place some at the Civic Center campus to test it, and if it works, it's something we could add later at a minimal cost.
That's wonderful, thank you. And then I think the last question I have has to do with the parking. I just want to confirm, my understanding is that as proposed tonight, there would actually be a net gain of parking spaces, but those parking spaces would be about 6 inches narrower than what exists right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, those are all my questions. Does anyone else from council have any more questions? No? Okay. Then let me turn it over to the public. Madam City Clerk, how many cards do we have?
We have 9 cards. 10 cards.
10 cards. Okay. Let's do 2 minutes per speaker, please.
The first speaker is Claire.
Hello, I'm an 11-year-old who currently owns a small dog. Many So there's only one dog park in the city of Los Altos, and that is right here. And even now, there are a lot of dogs just playing in baseball field, which can disrupt many people. And yeah. So on the design, I think that the small dog area is a great idea. I have seen actually 2 attacks on small dogs by a big dog. So I think that many small dog owners will have to be careful, and I think a lot of people are already aware. I think I'm done.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Karen Solheim.
Good evening, City Council members. I'm here today to express concerns about the proposed Hillview Dog Park and to relay issues that have been raised by our neighbors on next door. I have attended all the design sessions and I watched the video of the project and presentation. I believe the overall design of the dog park is attractive and it's well thought out. However, there are several significant concerns that I would like to bring to your attention. First, the location. Please place it at Mackenzie Park or at the south end of Lincoln Park instead, where the people already exercise their dogs and there's plentiful parking. Perhaps the neighbors who objected to that location originally would reconsider if they knew the displacement of parking for the library, the History Museum, and the Bus Barn Theater that's going to happen. Some residents suggest keeping the current temporary location where there's ample parking and implementing the new design there. This would negate the need for additional parking. The space between the bus barn and the library parking lot could then be used as a small park for parents who are observing their soccer players. Second, parking near the library. This is especially problematic for the senior citizens and the people bringing their children to the library. This issue is compounded by the plan to replace parking spaces near downtown with a redundant park. Hillview and Lincoln Parks are sufficient, I believe, for downtown Los Altos. We don't need a new park downtown. Although a parking plan has been created to add about 22 spaces near the library, almost all of them will be near the police station and the new city offices and the youth center. They're not going to be useful to people going to the library. They're going to be filled before the library opens at 10 o'clock. So the library will lose parking definitely with this plan. Additionally, any changes to the parking around the library should be completed well before the construction on the dog park begins.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
If you have other comments that you would like the council to consider, I encourage you to email them to us if you've not done so already.
The next speaker is Andrea Wald.
I sent a long email this weekend with all the reasons why artificial turf is not a desirable surface, and I hope you had a chance to read it. I'm compelled to counter some of the things I've heard this evening. There was a statement that concrete is not desired because it's too hot. Make no mistake, artificial turf is hotter than concrete. The dog park in Santa Clara doesn't even have any infill in it. And when the temperatures outside are about 80 degrees, the dogs stay off of the artificial turf because it's too hot for them. And every evening or early in the morning, they wash the surface down. When a dog pees or poos on it, that pee stays in the ground. It does not biodegrade. And I know somebody personally who ripped out their artificial turf because it stunk to high heaven because their dog peed on it. There are several cities that are looking into banning artificial turf because of all the harm is being associated with for the environment and the health and safety of the public. Millbrae passed a ban on artificial turf as well as San Marino, California. Sunnyvale will be voting on a ban for all city property, and they're also funding a study issue to look into all the harms of artificial turf so that they can hopefully come up with an ordinance ban for residents as well. Santa Clara County will be voting on a ban for county properties at a meeting in August. Many other places, both in the U.S. and abroad, already have moratoriums or bans in place and are for this toxic product. The EPA recently passed an ordinance regarding safe levels of PFAS, which are found in every single artificial turf. You cannot get any plastic grass that does not contain PFAS. So cities will be fined if their drinking water has unacceptable levels of PFAS and of this forever chemical, and the treatment plants to handle the PFAS in water are extremely expensive. With all the new research and push by environmental and health groups, you should really not have.
Thank you very much for your comments, and thank you for the email over the weekend.
The next speaker is Robert Urban.
Well, I'm kind of going up against a lot of people that were really prepared with a lot of details. I guess I come at this mainly because of the cost. I just think it's excessively, I just think it's too much money at this point to spend on something like this. I am a dog lover. I have no problem with a dog park, but I think this is excessive. I think the city council, with the proposed elimination of parking downtown, and so I just think you're venturing into areas that are costing the taxpayer far too much money. I think there are other projects such as road improvement, other infrastructure projects the city could better spend their money on. That's my opinion. I'm completely against this on the fiscal part of it. Just, I think it's too expensive. And maybe you have your minds made up, but that's how I feel about it. I just think money could be better spent and time better spent than this kind of foolishness, in my opinion. But anyway, I know people want to park, and maybe the other locations would be more convenient. I don't know. But anyway, that's my feelings.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Teresa Morris.
Good evening. Again, Teresa Morris speaking as resident, not as a park commissioner. A few things. I think we need a civic center plan. We need to spend time, money, effort, and get one together that has an entire plan for our civic center. We're really missing the boat on that because we're piecemealing so many of these things. The dog park, as far as I'm concerned, is a done deal. It's been voted on. Money's been allocated for it. I am, again, speaking as a resident whose tax money is being used for these projects. I am highly opposed to the dog wash feature. We don't need it. If we don't have dirt, we won't have the issues that were of concern for people who wanted to dog wash. Their dogs were getting muddy with all of the grass and the dirt. So the other concern I have with that is that people will actually bring their dogs and wash their dogs, and we're on the hook for the water. And it's going to be costly now. It already is, and it will be as we hit a drought. I know that there's been conversation about the trees. I am always an advocate for keeping every single tree we have. We cannot impact the trees in a negative way. If there's concern about any of the leaves from the trees being an issue for dog paws, I recommend a hard surface shade area that can be blown off or swept off so that less leaves get down to the ground. Before I run out of time, Roberta Phillips and I spoke, and she had some comments, and she wasn't able to be here, and she's having computer problems and so on. So she has concerns about the trees as well. She's concerned that the presentation was not in the packet for the public to review in advance. I agree with her with that. I would like to see these presentations that we're going to be viewing in packets in advance. It wasn't in the park packet in advance. It wasn't in this packet in advance. So I wish that we would do that. And if you have any questions about the dog park, as a commissioner, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Vijay Jaganathan.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak. I am in agreement with a lot of the people who are against the dog park per se, and also the dog park in this location. I've been over this before. I was here at a previous meeting as well to talk about that. One of the things that didn't come up today was about the trees that were going to be removed in that section there. I don't know if that's off the table now, but there was sort of like a nuanced discussion about are there any apricot trees going to be removed? No, but I thought there were going to be 5 to 7 oak trees removed. If that has changed, then you need to make that really clear, because a lot of people out there still think you're going to be removing those oak trees back there. In any case, I'm with the trees, like others have mentioned before me. We do not want to be removing any trees, whatever trees they are, apricot or oaks, because we are already, now on the hook for losing 25 apricot trees in the police department area. And I agree with Karen entirely about locating the dog park somewhere else. There's a lot of foot traffic in this area, and I don't even know how we arrived at this decision by just ruining the aesthetic of this place with a whole bunch of dogs running around in this place. We have 2 wedding venues. There are people, dressed up to go to these events, and then you're going to have a dog park with a lot of noise and, not so desirable, stuff going on at the dog park area. And I'm also in agreement with Teresa. The dog wash is just an unnecessary appendage. Like I would like a car wash. I would like to bring my car here and wash my car. Why can't I have one, right? Like, so we don't want to be going overboard on this. It is a lot of money, and I actually did write to the town crier calling this the Taj Mahal of dog parks, and that's what it is. We don't want to be pouring so much money down here, and then, we almost always end up cutting down trees. We are going, sort of morphing from Los Altos to Los Muertos by cutting all these trees, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Sri Jaganathan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening to me. I have a sense that the decision is kind of done, and I feel what I say might be futile. But I think what you're trying to do is you're spending money solving a problem that may not they have a solution for a problem that may not exist. I go to Rosita Park every day. Okay, I don't have a dog. I love dogs. I don't have a dog. There are 20, 30 dogs running around all the time. Doesn't matter what the city ordinance says. They are off leash. They're running around. It's not a problem. Dog owners are very, very respectful. They take care of the dogs. There are big dogs, small dogs, all running around. Are you going to make sure that when you build the dog park, that dog owners cannot use those parks? That would be ridiculous. It is an area that is well used. So my suggestion is, why are you embarking on solving a problem that doesn't exist? I have asked many dog owners. They don't want this fenced-in dog park. They actually want the open area. So have you done a poll of all dog owners? Ideally, you should ask the dogs. I'm not sure dogs would like what you're building. But if you ask the dog owners at least, have you polled them, all the dog owners of Los Altos, to find out whether they want this? I have talked to many of them. They don't want this. You're spending money, I believe, foolishly. Second, we are in an age where the earth is heating up dramatically. I think the city council should give some credence to what you're doing. You're heating up Los Altos. You're cutting down trees. You're building more parking lots and paving the structures. There is a UN requirement to reduce global warming. Yet here we go around building silly things. We should let nature do its job and not interfere with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dan Byer.
Hi. So let me see. I got a few things to say here. First of all, the sun sets at 4:30 in the wintertime. So getting to the mayor's point about lighting, I think that does become important, especially in the wintertime. There's like 3 months where you don't even get off from work until the park is closed because of lighting. I noticed in one of the designs, the drinking fountain's actually in the entryway. The dogs need access to it. So unless I misread the map, the drinking fountain for the dogs really has to be in where the dogs are. The way they tell you they're thirsty is they typically run over to the drinking fountain and stick their head in it, right? So if it's outside, you're not going to know. Getting to Sally's point, yes, the messes are so much easier if you go down to like Village Green, the dog park here in Mountain View that has artificial turf. You can see where the messes are. If you go to one where there's either grass like Hillview is now, or wood chips, or pretty much anything else, things don't get picked up because it can't be seen. If you're going to go down to only if you're going to take down the fence between the small dogs and the big dogs, I don't really have a preference one way or the other on that. But if you are going to, I would say you should only have one entry. You can save some space by getting rid of one of the entries. You don't need one for dogs coming in, one for dogs going out. And if you're going to do that, I'd also think that the agility course is right in the middle at that point. You should move it over to a corner. Things in the middle block views of where the messes are, where your dogs are. So you want good visibility when you're sitting on the benches. I don't know if any of the benches were circular in style. If they are, they shouldn't be. You want people to be able to face the dogs, not be sitting around chit-chatting or whatever, not see what's going on, not see when the dogs make their messes. And let's see. Guess I've pretty much gone through everything. I would say I don't know why we're moving dog parks, why we don't just keep where we are.
So
but-
thank you very much for your comments.
The next speaker is Catherine Hung.
Thank you for your time. I think it's all safe here, so why am I masked? But, okay, like the 11-year-old girl, I have seen 3 small dogs attacked by big dogs at the Village Green in San Antonio, so I do cautiously go there. Palo Alto, by the way, I heard from another dog owner, has been ticketing off-leash dogs because, you know, it's sometimes risky when the dog is off-leash. But I do understand the pleasure of open space and dogs running around wherever parks are. And so I appreciate having a split small dog, big dog. However, this proposed plan just seems way small for the small dog area. And the agility area, you know, takes that chunk. So I would also, and so my biggest plug or push or ask is, can we please still keep that temporary dog park area, which turns out to be just a nice open space, plenty of parking. I know there's desires there, such as water, but you know, those small things could still be worked out. And I don't know, the idea of moving the agility course over there, that's kind of interesting to me. But then also to look at the numbers. So my question is, so $560,000 to construct, $180,000 contingency, so $740,000. We have $250,000 left. So that's so that is including covering 16 parking spaces. I'm not gonna harp on parking, which was one of my big concerns, except that 6 inches from each parking space is significant. And we have so many huge SUVs, you know, just look at those Tesla SUVs.
Thank you very much for your comments.
3 inches might be better.
The next speaker is Janine Valadez.
Hi, park chair, but speaking as a resident. I want to make a few points. I want to clarify and amplify one thing that when I went back and looked at the video of the park meeting on this topic, I had made the comment. It had to do with fencing. Any interior or exterior fencing, my emphasis was not so much on decoration, but emphasis on opacity. Having the fences opaque, whether through shrubbery or functional screening, is very important to minimize dog reactivity. Also, I agree with other speakers that have talked against the dog wash. It's just not necessary given the park design. Save some money there. I also believe that the screening to the soccer field is very important, not so much on weekends because it's east-west usage of the field and kids kick over the goals, but during the week, the teams practice north-south. And so soccer balls going into the dog park should be prevented if possible. I'm a very big plan for the integrative nature of what was presented tonight, where we're considering the dog park and the impact and effects of parking. So I think that's very important. It's a little tiny bit of urban planning rather than looking at each thing individually, and also phasing of the construction so that we don't lose the parking spots before we gain parking spots is important. On the artificial turf, I wish it were natural, but it can't be natural. We've already done 2 long pilots with such, and there's damage that occurs that can actually injure dogs as well as humans when they start to rut out the field. In terms of shade, I think that's very important. Whatever we save on dog washes, we should add to shade for humans and dogs. I think that as we educate the public, I hope that the park and other organizations educate the public about the state of the art with artificial turf. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much to everyone who commented tonight. I think that those were useful comments. And just for the record, let me note that we received a fair number of emails that were very thoughtful. And I think it's interesting because the emails were not all universally advocating the same thing. That sort of input is really important to me, and I'm sure to my colleagues as well. So we really appreciate the engagement because it is useful to us. With that, I will go ahead and bring this back to council. Councilmember Meadows, you want to get us started?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to do that. And because I'm going first, I'd like to give a little bit of context, because this has been a long process. It's actually been longer than I've been on council. I think a quest for a dog park started, I don't know, 6, 8, however many years ago. So the context that I'm most familiar with is about 3 or so years ago, we had an off-leash pilot on the baseball field, which was closed because it was during COVID, the Hillview baseball field. What that pilot proved is that, and that was an off-leash pilot, no fencing, other than what's there on a daily basis. It proved that dog owners, or at least their dogs, are not always respectful. And we had a number of incidents which led to the commission and the council saying we needed to pursue a fenced-in process. So I'm starting it there, even though the commissions were looking at it long before then, but this is about 3 years ago. About 2 years ago, or maybe it's 1.5, well, not even this council, this slightly prior council to this, approved the Hillview current temporary park, where it is, with a permanent park designed to come forward, and a pilot at McKinsey. And that was after a long community process, a long commission process. So, you know, it's not like this came out of the blue. And so we've had these parks, such as they are, for year and a half or so, maybe longer. It took a while to get the fencing up and everything. And so what started then after that is the commission and staff have been working towards a recommended design. And that's what we're looking at now. At the beginning, during that process, we heard a lot of concerns about parking from library patrons. And so that's why we're actually looking at some proposed parking plans for consideration as well. So I want to, our community, our civic center is a busy place, but it's already got noisy activities. Soccer is very noisy. You put the dogs next to the soccer, does that really change the balance tremendously? I don't know. And I want to point out there's actually not a great deal of distance between the current strip that I'm going to call a dog run and where we're proposing this particular design to be. And so that, as I said, Mayor, I wanted to provide some context. So that's where we are. So I want to now talk specifically about what I see before us tonight. I appreciate the work, again, that the staff and the consultant and the commissions have done. So I like the preferred plan. I like having a separate area for the small dogs. I'm no expert, but I do question the agility area. Is it the right size? Do dogs really use agility areas? Is it too big, too small, whatever? I'm not learned enough to know, but that takes a lot of space. So I'd ask some, at least educate us about that agility area if it stays in when it goes to the next design phase. I agree completely, no dog wash. I mean, water is an issue. We don't need to be, at the very least, we don't need to be paying to have people bathe their dogs on city water. And this is not a dog park that should create particularly dirty dogs, I hope. The budget, I think it is worth repeating again that this is not a budget this is not coming from a pile of money that we can use on repairing roads. This is not coming from a pile of money that we can use to put a firehouse roof. This is coming from park in lieu fees. We must spend this money on approved park type uses. So I want to make sure that that's clear. I do think that the parking solutions are headed the right direction. So yes to parking with care to the 1 or 2 trees that may or may not be impacted. I do wonder about the cost of that one little space in the landscape strip. Is that really worth one space? I do want to point out that if I heard correctly, you're taking these spaces down to 9-foot width from 9.5. But is that correct? You can just nod yes or no.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah,
I think
but
most of them are.
standard parking spaces are actually 8.5 feet. And I
8.5 to
remember
9.
this from my planning commission days. And so 9-foot spaces, which is what we have throughout the city, are actually still overly generous. So taking a 9.5 foot down to 9 is still generous parking space. So I did want to put that clarification in there. Let's see, I think there was one more thing. Oh, and again, to be very clear, and I asked this question, there are no trees, 0 trees coming out around the dog park. Correct. Again, yes, he's nodding his head. Correct. So whatever, and we've heard these rumors for months and people keep saying it, there are 0 trees impacted by the dog park. And so with that, that's my feedback on the plans. I do think it looks promising. I do think that the small and all areas should be separate, but I do think they should be in that same overall space because some people have a small and a large dog, and this way they can manage both of their dogs in the same place. So that's my feedback.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor.
I want to start by thanking everybody who's been involved in this process, and I'm not going to do it in great detail because the process itself has, as far as I know, it's at least a 12-year process so far. So dog parks were referenced in our last master parks plan, which was completed in 2012. I served on the Parks and Recreation Commission for a full term, as did my 3 colleagues to the right of me. We have been involved in this for a long time. So I want to thank especially all the residents, because we have had more resident interaction over dog parks than we have over any other business that the city has undertaken while I've been around. We had 2 public meetings, one at the Garden House and one at Grant Park. We considered various locations. And right now, we're at the culmination of this 12-year process. The budget has already been approved. There have been several votes to move forward. And we're now sort of at the point of the process where it's time to approve design concepts. Despite the fact that I spent 4 years on the Parks and Recreation Commission dealing largely with dog parks frequently, it was probably, I don't know, a big portion of what we dealt with. And despite the fact that I've read all the research and I've talked to dog park designers and I've visited dog parks all over the world, I don't consider myself an expert, and I have no desire to sit at the dais and get into the weeds of the design at all. That said, I feel compelled to say that I don't think we should have a dog wash. And it makes me sick to say something about, an aspect of the design after it's been all vetted by so many different people and parts of the city and so forth. And that's the limit of the design feedback that I will give. That said, I support the recommended design concept. I support the use of modern turf products. Frankly, grass is untenable, and the other alternatives are less desirable for a lot of reasons. We want to avoid having a dog wash potentially. You can't avoid the need for a dog wash if you choose a surface like decomposed granite that during the wintertime is going to get, all up in the dog's feet, and they're going to need to be hosed off before they can get back in the car. So I think that the concerns that have been expressed about artificial turf are appropriate to express, for sure. I had all of those concerns myself. But I have been persuaded by the latest information on the state of the art and the state of the technology that turf is the appropriate solution for our dog park. So to make a long story short, I'm in favor of the recommended design, albeit in the hopes that we can kibosh the dog wash.
Okay, thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and go next. We'll just go down the dais here, and I want to go next because I want to thank Sally and Pete, both of you. You stated your opinions and your rationales very well, and I am almost in complete agreement with everything that's been said. So I will be the third vote to put the kibosh on the dog wash. I do have a question about the agility area, and I guess this is really following up on what Councilmember Flagger asked earlier. I think that Councilmember Flagger's idea of having the quietest part of the dog park near the library makes sense. I always thought of an agility area as not a rambunctious, wild go-frolic. I mean, this is where I think some real thorough discipline takes place. I thought of agility areas as actually being quieter than say the dog run, but I'm going to look at you, our consultant, because you're going to know the mechanics of that certainly better than I or anyone else up here would. So I'm just curious what your thoughts were with the location of the agility portion of the dog park with respect to sound.
Yes, definitely. The agility area was proposed in that area adjacent to the library for that reason. As you described, the agility area it's a space to discipline your dog and teach them how to follow your direction. That being said, they're going to be tame. They're going to be paying attention to their owner, and they're not running around rambunctiously in the open dog run area, which of course will be louder.
Okay. Thank you for that. I like the Vice Mayor. I don't want to micromanage this. I'm not an expert in this area. And I look forward to seeing what type of plans come back to the council when we're ready to go to construction. But a member of the public, I thought, made a very good point, which is that if you have circular seating, it means that there are some people who are going to have their backs to the dogs. And it makes sense to me that we encourage people to be facing where the dogs are so that even if they're socializing, they're also facing where the dogs are, where their attention should be. Again, I don't want to mandate that or anything of that nature, but it does make sense to me, and I'll simply throw that out there as you're putting together the final construction plans here, if that makes sense to our experts as well. Councilmember Flagger?
I'm fine if Councilmember Liang wants to go next.
No, you can go.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, thank you, team, for all the work that has been done to date, and I won't repeat what Councilmember Meadows and the Vice Mayor have already said and described with regards to the number of years and the work that went into getting us here. So I'll just go down the list, following up on what my colleagues have already mentioned. I do support having the separation between the small and large dogs. That does make sense. I appreciate the mayor asking about the agility space because I do want to go back to the point I mentioned during the Q&A, which is ensuring that the library side of the dog park is the most quiet of the dog park. And so when I see visual screening, I also hope noise screening is also factored into that side of the dog park. And so I appreciate our consultant educating us that the agility training area will actually be more quiet than the open area. And so based on that, then if we do decide to go with the agility training area, to Councilmember Meadows' point, and it's all within budget, then I would support having it on that side of the dog park. I also support not having a dog wash. And I'll just add to that again, to the extent that staff may need to cut back on some of these proposed features, not the water fountain where we're providing water for our dogs, but the other water features, for me, those would be the first, the dog wash, anything that involves water that's not necessary, those would be the first features that I'd support getting rid of. The parking solution, to Councilmember Meadows' point, this is actually responding to feedback and comments we've received from members of the public. And so I want to applaud staff for really being creative and working with the consultants to increase the number of parking spaces that we will have in our civic center. It's all walkable and accessible, and I appreciate if we can add more accessible parking spaces closer to the dog park, if that's possible. I think that would also be an improvement. But I do want to applaud the work with regards to the parking solution. And to the extent, I do want to follow up on the tree removal point, because what I heard from staff is that we will not be removing any trees for the construction of the dog park. But of course, we have the parking solutions that are part of the bigger plan. And so my ask would be to ensure that to the extent we do not need to remove trees, that we don't. And as part of the design for the dog park, as we have said with our tree ordinance, you take one out, we want you to replant one or more to replace it. So I hope staff is thoughtful with regards to the parking areas and making every effort possible not to remove any trees. And if we have to remove trees, we make sure we're planting, 1+ trees to replace any trees that have to be removed. On the signage, I know we didn't spend any time, Mr. Hernandez, talking about the signage, but one idea I had was, because we all are very familiar with the entrance to the library from San Antonio Road, it's not a very wide entrance, and it's two-way traffic currently. If possible, I think a sign at the entrance to the library directing people to the dog park to go to Hillview would be helpful. So when they're driving, up San Antonio, instead of making the left into the library entrance, if we could have a sign that says, keep going straight, left at Hillview to get to the dog park. I think that will help with traffic coming in and out of that narrow entrance to our library and the civic center. What else do I have here? On the dog entrance, will there be a gate there, Mr. Hernandez? Or is it just going to be an open entryway to walk into the actual dog park?
There are gates.
There will be a gate.
It's a double gated area.
Okay. So going back to the point about what the walkway, and I know you said currently you don't have a design for what the walkway will look like as it goes by the current theater. We do have summer programs. It's bright outside till 9 p.m. during the summer, and I know the theater has events sometimes starting at 5. They have social hour outside at 6 p.m. I've been to many of those. So there is a direct overlap between events we have at our theater and the use of the dog park. And so I just want to encourage staff as you move forward with designing what that path will look like, that again, you're very thoughtful about how that will interact with the theater guests, the distancing, if there's any screening again, I'm envisioning that picture happening. And so I would encourage staff to be thoughtful about how you design that pathway going by the theater. What else do I have? The turf. I appreciate the feedback from the community, both here in person and also the email communications that we have. To the Vice Mayor's point, I am not an expert in this area. I am deferring to the experts or consultants or staff who have worked on this. They've done extensive research on what the right material will be. And so, I will not weigh in on picking one material over the other, but I would encourage staff, as you go through the RFP process, guided by your attorney, attorney, that you do, as part of the RFP process, yes, Ms. Houston, as part of the RFP process, one of the criteria to consider would be the most environmentally friendly. And we asked a lot of questions about cleanup process, the leakage, how it all works. Just ensure that that criteria is incorporated into any solicitation document we issue in selecting the vendor for the materials for the dog park. And then what else do I have on my list? But overall, just to add to the support tonight, I do support moving forward with the dog park. We have members of the community that have wanted a dog park for the longest time. I think it's a great addition to our community. We identified Hillview Community Center because of the concerns we had heard. As I was listening to the public, I was sitting here and Mr. Hernandez, I'm not suggesting it, but I'll just share out loud that would it make sense to take this design based on the feedback you've received tonight and have it be located at the current dog park so you don't have the crossing past the Bus Barn Theater. And I reminded myself of the reasons why we ended up with that location as opposed to where the current temporary dog park is. So I support moving forward with the dog park. I think it's an asset to our community. I think, looking ahead, it's something our community will enjoy. And so please, let's stay within budget. If we can come in under $1 million, that would be great. I think you heard, at least from 4 of us tonight, that it's important with the design. We're not going to micromanage. We've all given our 2 cents on a couple of the features. But I think you've heard that with regards to the design, the elements that we really care about. And so as you go through the process in developing, working with the construction documents, to the extent we do not need some of these features, I will look to you all to make that decision. Because we want a dog park that people will enjoy, but it doesn't need to be the Taj Mahal of Los Altos. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Okay. Councilmember Liang, it's 9:00. Would you like to give your comments now, or do you want to take a break first?
No, I think I can give my comments
Okay,
now.
please go ahead.
So the reason why I asked the questions that I did and wanted to better understand about the decisions, and thank you, Councilmember Meadows, about the history about how this process came about and how we moved forward on it. The thing that I feel that we are missing is the data about when we established our 2 dog parks at Mackenzie, as well as that at Hillview, we really didn't get information on the utilization of each park. And we didn't see the data on which park was getting higher usage. So yes, we probably voted to move forward on Hillview first. But if we've learned, after we said we're going to do Hillview first, that another park has more people using the dog park, perhaps at Mackenzie, I feel it would be within our purview to make changes on the decisions that we have made prior. And so our goal is, if we're going to invest money into creating a feature for the dogs and residents in our community, that we want to make sure that we're getting the best and highest uses of whatever we're establishing. So that's the reason why I was open to perhaps moving on Mackenzie first. And if we determine that, what we're learning is, even though I heard we're not going to be taking out trees for this dog park, I did hear that we will be removing apricot trees, perhaps, for the parking area. So to me, I feel that if we're impacting, we need to better understand the impacts that we're having on the parks overall, the programs overall. We had people, when they came forward to ask for a dog park, we had petitions where over 300 signatures asking for a dog park at Hillview. But yet tonight, I don't see a lot of people coming to advocate for this dog park. So that's why that was my concern. If we decide to move forward, my concern is the next phase, and that is what I am unclear on. So as we finish up our comments, I'd like to get some certainty on the next phase. Also, with this preferred master plan design. I'm pleased to hear that we may be eliminating the dog wash, but I have concerns about the entry area being so large. I also have concerns about the multiple entry areas that we have. I'm concerned that we have everyone coming out one area and we don't have a secondary exit. I attend a lot of dog parks. I visit a lot of dog parks in multiple states as well as our state. There are always multiple entry points at dog parks. When we got an issue at Mackenzie, we all had to climb over the fence and we had a problem getting, exiting out of that dog park. So I have a concern about only having that one exit point. If we make the fences too high, like Mackenzie, climbing over that fence was problematic for a senior woman that we had stuck in the park with us. So I would really be concerned about having our fences as high as Mackenzie. The other thing is, let's see, the trees coming down. I definitely believe that the waste receptacles need to be inside in the park area and not in that entry point area, because you need to access those poop bags when the dogs are active and needed most. Also, I believe that more seating is important. And Mr. Maginot, if you could just help pull up the pictures that I feel would be helpful. I want to share something. I would hope that we could direct our Park Arts and Culture Commission to look at some functional art pieces. I've seen them at other parks, and they really add to the dog parks, as we've seen at San Antonio Park down the road. Functional art pieces are really delightful, and we can use that money from another budget to help compensate for the costs of this park. The other picture, please. So I think that would be helpful in our cost factor, and then help get monies from another budget. And I appreciate that. Also, easier access. And I appreciate addressing the ADA and emergency access points with the fire department and the parking reevaluation. Also, when we go to talk about why we need the turf, I think we've all experienced from other cities as well. McKelvey Park in Mountain View has natural grass, and it does not hold up well under high dog play traffic. We've experienced that at Mackenzie as well. And then what happens is, when the dogs urinate, it is problematic on natural grass, and from dog waste as well. So it leaves those brown patches, and it becomes a maintenance issue. I want to be clear that, like we said earlier, this is not final approval for this park design, and that we will be having further discussion of the parking relocation of the Civic Center property. I would hope an environmental review for the protected trees and land use change of parking will be coming back, and that the report claims that, from what I saw, that this is exempt from environmental review, and I hope that's not how we're seeing that. I think it's inadequate to make a blanket design decision, and I think it's important to be sure that we really have a good study to address the, like I said earlier, protected trees, traffic, and noise, so that we can mitigate any concerns that we have properly. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to thank my colleagues very much. I think this has been a very useful discussion. Mr. City Manager, I see you have a question.
Sorry, just based on the council discussion, I wanted to talk about the trees real quick. I see my life flashing before my eyes in this community with the rumors moving forward. So no trees are being removed. The current plan, and of course landscaping, all that could change when it comes back, calls for adding 31 trees. The most expensive component of this outside of grading is $45,000 for trees. The parking that is planned, we do not believe will impact any trees. There is a chance that, as designed, it could impact 2 trees. If that's the case, we would simply update the parking plan to not impact those trees. There's certain things we don't know until we get out there and do the study and look at it. So I just want to make it clear that the plans before council do not remove any trees at any point. It adds 31 trees currently, and if the parking were to impact the trees, again, we don't believe it will the way it's laid out. We would just update the parking plan to not impact those trees.
Thank you very much. And let me just follow up on that. I want to make sure that members of the public understand that we're your elected representatives, but we're also a part of our community. Every one of us cares about our trees, having shade, the effects of climate change. Every one of us has children. Every one of us is concerned about making sure that we have the best community that we possibly can. No one on this council wants to do something that's going to be harmful. Sometimes as a matter of law, we have to make tough decisions that maybe we don't want to. But where I'm kind of getting to this is if you read on Nextdoor or you overhear someone at the grocery store saying they're going to take out 10 trees in order to build a dog park, if you hear something like that, and it's angering to hear that because I don't want to take out 10 trees in order to put a dog park in. If you hear something that just seems off the wall, I encourage you, reach out to us. Reach out to more than just one of us. We're your representatives, but we're your neighbors too. We're local. I guarantee you, if you send me an email, if you give me a call, I'm going to respond. I know that my colleagues will too. If something just doesn't make sense to you, let us know that. We can have a more in-depth conversation with you than an email sent before a meeting or 2 or 3 minutes speaking at a council meeting. We want to engage with you. We want to know what you think, and we want to be able to explain to you why we're making certain decisions and make sure that you have the most accurate information that's out there so that you can move forward and decide whether or not we're serving you in a way that you want to be served. So with that, I think, staff, do you have the direction that you need tonight?
Yes, we do, and we're very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that excitement is echoed from up here as well. With that, I will close this agenda item.
I have a question before you leave.
Can we have a motion, because the agenda item, it says, receive the presentation and provide staff with further direction, including action to move forward with construction documents and project schedule. So I think it would be good to have an action, because you are.
Okay, so how about this? I will move that the council directs staff to move forward with the Hillview, with the development of the Hillview Dog Park as directed during this discussion. Is that sufficient?
I think there was a majority for the preferred plan.
To move forward with the preferred plan as amended by the council during our discussion. Is that sufficient?
Could we include the parking?
Yeah, there was
in
3
that
policy
statement?
considerations. Don't you want us to give direction on? Well, I guess 2 of them were combined into what the mayor just said. But there was the one about approve any or all of the recommended government center parking modifications.
Any and all of the recommended parking modifications, and then do you wish staff to move forward with the construction documents and construction phase of the permanent dog park?
Okay, let me strike my original motion and I'll make this motion. I move that the council approve the preferred dog park design and that the council approve the recommended government center parking modifications, and that the council direct staff to move forward with construction documents as modified by the council during our discussion.
Can we get 3 different motions, please? Because I'd like to,
No, I want to make the one motion.
Second.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment.
Okay?
I'd like to also add that this design discussion comes back with information about parking and an environmental review that is not exempt.
It's not accepted.
Councilmember Liang,
Yes.
Councilmember Fliger,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Daley,
Yes.
Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you all. We have one item left tonight. I will look at my colleagues. Do you want to jump right into it, or do you want to break?
Jump.
Let's just jump in.
Okay,
Jump,
let's
jump.
go ahead and let's jump into it. Next item of business, item 12, is to approve the calendar for the transition to district elections. We've already moved on to the next agenda item. Okay, Mr. Maginot, will you be presenting?
I will. I have a very short presentation because I know it's getting late, and
We're just warming up.
we'll keep this. We'll keep it brief.
No, you have an hour.
This item is a discussion on our calendar for the process of transitioning to district-based elections. As the council is aware, we are currently in the middle of the process, and so staff is looking to get some further agreement and clarification on the calendar moving forward so that we can start really advertising future meetings and get the process really going. I've broken it up into 2 parts, not because they're actually phases. I've labeled them as phases. The only reason they're split up is because it makes it bigger on the slide to have it on 2 different slides. So ignore the phases, and I couldn't come up with a better term. So the first portion of the process, well, let me back up. As we know, the city is obligated and required by state law to hold at least 5 public meetings or public hearings. The first 2 are for the purpose of providing the public an opportunity to provide input on what communities of interest there are within the city. We held the first of these meetings on June 11th. The second is scheduled for this Saturday at 10 a.m. at the Grant Park Multipurpose Room. As I said, for the purpose of providing input on communities of interest. Now, these one remaining meeting is not the last opportunity for the public to provide input on what communities of interest there are. I'm going to try some technological wizardry and try to pull up a different, well, it's not going to work. To pull up the city's website. On the city's website, we have this handy link to the district-based elections, which will take those interested to the webpage for this process. On here, there are a couple of links in which members of the public can provide feedback. There's a general link at the top. Sort of down here in this paragraph, there is a community of interest form, as well as other links down below in case you missed the ones higher up. If any member of the public is interested in a very detailed presentation on the process, why we are doing this, what community of interest is, there is a link to our June 11th meeting in which our demographer gave a very detailed presentation in which you can watch that at your leisure on 1x or 2x speed, however you like. And then this page also will have all the upcoming meetings. There is a link for the presentation, which will be gone over this weekend, as well as all the documents from past meetings that the council has held. Let me go back to the presentation. Following this Saturday's meeting, the city will begin the process of developing the draft maps, which will show the various possible districts. That will be done sort of away from the council, and it'd be a good time during the council's break for this to happen. The third public meeting is currently scheduled for August 27th. That is a council meeting night. This would be the presentation of the draft maps to the council and to the public. No decisions will be made that night. Simply, it's an opportunity for the city to say, here are the maps that were drafted. Certainly members of the public can provide input at that time. Questions can be asked, etc. Following that meeting will really be the extensive community outreach, which I'll go over in just a moment of some of the activities that will be happening, but where we'll really take the maps out to the public and get feedback and input from the community on the maps. Meeting number 4 is scheduled for September 24th. Again, that is another council meeting night in which we'll present the results of that outreach and get further direction and feedback from the council. If there are revisions to maps that are needed, that can happen after that meeting. And then meeting number 5 will be held October 8th for the adoption of the final map. As council is aware, we have until October 31st. We're shooting for the 8th in case we need to have a little bit of room to make further revisions, etc. In terms of community outreach, of course, I've already shown you the website, which will continue to be updated, and new forms and opportunities to comment will be placed on there. The draft maps obviously will be put up there, and members of the public will be able to comment on them. We are also planning we'll meet with community groups, individuals who reach out to us and say, hey, I want to talk about it. We'll meet with them. We're planning to go to events like the farmers market, and not just once, but multiple times throughout the month of September. Attending the senior center, the Grant Park Senior Program. We're planning a mailer to go out to the city as a whole. Of course, the website. There are other things that we are planning that we will try to work out logistics and see if we can make them work. We'll have advertisements in the local newspaper, social media, many facets and avenues that we can to get as much feedback as we can. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation, Mr. Maginot. I will look at my colleagues. Are there any questions for staff? Councilmember Meadows?
If that side of the table wants to start, I'm happy to.
I'm fine waiting.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, I don't, looking at the calendar, Saturday's meeting is not on our city calendar yet, so it should probably be on there. Just as a point, unless I'm missing something. But, so I guess that was not so much a question as a statement. But could you put it on there, or somebody?
Yes, we'll make sure it gets on there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Flagger.
Sorry, that was it. Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Maginot. Based on the dates, not for the Saturday meeting, but the other 3 proposed dates, I notice that they're on council nights, as you said. And Mayor, you remember the first meeting we had, which was on a council night. And we can never anticipate how long we need for these community meetings. And I think this is something you don't want to rush. So I'm just curious how we thought about the time, the start time for these meetings to give us enough time.
Not yet. I would anticipate that the third and fourth meetings will probably be prior to the regular meeting, so there'll be study sessions. But based on other items that are on the agenda, they may be as part of the regular meeting. Of course, the adoption of the final maps would happen during a regular council meeting. You reminded me, one of the things that I've neglected to mention in community outreach is your traditional community workshop meeting that's not taking place during a council meeting, where it's a little less structured and, we're not governed by you're only allowed to speak for 3 minutes, but it's really more of an opportunity to have a dialogue with the community. We are planning those as well.
Oh, so you're planning to have community workshops, right? Okay.
Yes, outside of the council meetings, yes.
Okay. And then I think you answered my question. The October 8th meeting where we're adopting the final map, that will be on our, that's not a special meeting or a study session. That would be an agenda item on our council meeting.
Correct. When it's time to adopt the final maps, it would be a part of the regular council meeting.
And that's okay, because I think we're required to legally have at least 5 meetings. So I just want to make sure. Because this wouldn't be a special meeting, it just would be an agenda item on our existing regular council meeting, and
Correct.
that's okay.
Correct.
Because during that item, if I remember correctly, we're gonna have to allow the public to comment, like a public hearing. And we're planning
Yes.
to have that as our 5th meeting.
Yes.
Okay. I'll wait for discussion.
So you're saying that Saturday's meeting is counted as one of the 5, correct?
Correct.
It's required to have one on a weekend, right?
No, to make it announced like a council meeting. So
Correct.
it's publicly noticed.
be
I'm just
noticed,
making
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm just getting clarification. So my question would be that, was it okay that I go next? Or did you want to
Absolutely.
go next? What are we doing to reach out to those who are not active and don't participate in social media to get the information that they need to learn about what we're doing?
Well, as I mentioned, we'll be doing a citywide mailer that'll go to all residents. We'll be doing ads in the newspapers, flyers around town, etc.
But then when are we doing that? Because like they're going to be missing this Saturday's meeting already. So,
Well, we have advertised this Saturday's meeting in the town crier, both last week and this week. Very large ads in the paper, and then we're reaching out, or we'll be reaching out for all future meetings. That's part of the reason why we were hoping to have the council's discussion tonight, was so that we know the dates and we can start advertising and getting the word out now, as opposed to a week before the meeting.
so in the past, we've utilized Nextdoor in a way we can push out messaging. Are we going to be able to do that this time?
Yes, so all our social media channels, we're planning to advertise on them.
So then does it go out to Nextdoor direct email type like we've done in the past? Where it goes people's inboxes and it's from Nextdoor?
I will admit I am not an expert on Nextdoor, but I believe that we can do that, yes.
Okay, and we will do that, correct?
Yeah, provided we can.
Okay, like Monica did in the past.
Okay.
Was it Monica? It was Monica, right? Who was her?
I'm picturing her, but I can't remember her name.
Yeah, okay. And then, so when you say that we're going to be attending the senior centers, we're doing both senior centers, Hillview, like you said Grant, but we're doing Hillview and Grant. So we're going to notify to have a special meeting so they're aware that this presentation is being given.
Yeah, we'll make sure that they know ahead of time.
Okay, great to know. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, none for me either, so I will now open it up to public comment. Do we have any speaker cards?
No.
No, nor do I see anyone rushing up to speak, so I will close public comment and bring it back to the council. Who'd like to get us started? Councilmember Flagger.
I just have 2 or 3 suggestions. For your, was it the 6th bullet point where you had ETC? Could we add there reaching out, so having our staff liaisons to each commission announce it at the commission meetings, because we know our commissioners, they have different reaches within our community. So make sure that is announced at our commission meetings so they're aware of it and they can help spread the word. Colleagues, I also would suggest that at least for one of the meetings, if we're going to keep all 3 on Tuesdays going forward, we try different times. Again, we want to have different members of the public. 4 p.m. may work for some of them, and so if we need to get it on our calendars now or as soon as we get back from break, let's do that. But I think 4 p.m. may work for one of the Tuesdays, and then depending on closed session or study session, then 6 p.m. because I know as part of these public hearings, you want to have different times and days of the week to ensure that we're reaching as many people as possible. And so I wouldn't want to see, for those 3 last meetings, they're all at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday on a regular council day. So I'll leave it up to the mayor to work with staff, if there's support for that, to ensure the 3 last meetings, assuming we don't have any more, aren't at the same time on regular council meeting days, because I do think it's better. So mixing it up, I'm asking that they mix up the time. So for example, on one of the Tuesdays, let's start at 4 p.m.
Yeah, but I didn't see a time.
There's no
When the
time,
3
that's why I'm
dates-
making the
Oh,
suggestion.
okay.
Because they're
But-
on regular council meeting days.
Yeah, but I definitely feel the last one should be at council time.
Well, it has to, because we have to adopt that
Yeah,
final map. I would even be open to having one of those 3 meetings not be on a Tuesday. I don't know what people's schedules look like. I don't know if maybe this far in advance, this early, we could find a non-Tuesday day for one of those last 3 meetings. I'll open it up. I think that would be good too, instead of having those last 3 meetings all on Tuesdays on regular council meeting days.
So what do you think of this idea? Instead of having meeting number 4 on September 24th, right now we simply say we're going to have it the week of Monday, September 23rd, and let's see what the turnout is like on August 27th, and we'll see how that goes at a regular meeting. We may want to call a special meeting. I mean, I'm happy to do that. So we're identifying a week that we can try to keep our own schedules flexible, but that might make more sense.
I mean, if there's support for that, Mayor, I do think it would be good to have a non-Tuesday day for one of those last 3 meetings, but I see the city clerk talking to our assistant city manager, so I defer to staff to let us know if that's feasible.
So Councilmember Flagger, it is feasible. The reason we're presenting it in this way is it's been difficult to get the schedule finalized, which means we've been unable to do the outreach we would like to do. So we presented a schedule where we know where council will be at. If council would like to suggest different start times or different days, I think that's great. To the extent practical, if we could decide that tonight so we can begin the advertising, particularly the mailer, that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, so excuse me for being argumentative. The June 11th meeting, I think, was not very satisfactory to anyone. And I don't think that our future Tuesday night meetings are going to be like that, because we largely know why it didn't go well. But I don't know how the rest of my colleagues feel, but I think Nisa is right. Being able to float it a little bit, or even commit to a day other than the 24th of September, just to break it up a little bit. I think that is a good idea.
So Mayor, just for clarification, we think that's a great idea too. We're starting with dates and times where we know council can make it. And we're hoping tonight, even if it's council saying it'll be a meeting, number 4 will be this week, we can start advertising that. And then we can commit to the date later. So we're fine with whatever council decides. We just really want to get the outreach underway.
I don't disagree with being flexible. What I disagree with was that what was wrong with that first meeting had anything to do with it being a Tuesday night. So, I'll just put it that way. So we can hold better meetings. We could start it, I think starting at 4 p.m. may be better, but we're also going to cut out people who might have been able to attend if it was at 6 or 7. So there's never going to be a perfect time, including for us. We saw how hard it is for Saturday's meeting, and however that's happening. So the more astray we go from Tuesday, the less we're going to be able to accommodate it, and the public may or may not be well served. We can correct what was wrong with the first meeting regardless of the day and time we hold it.
And if I may, I agree with you. It wasn't just the fact that it was Tuesday and we learn and move forward. But I do think, for me, one of two things should happen, though. Either if we're so tied to Tuesday, because that's the day we know we're all available, then maybe not have it on a second or fourth Tuesday. But I still think, looking at the calendar and knowing the intent of the CVRA and wanting to make sure when you're doing the district maps, you want to make these public hearings as accessible to as many residents as possible, and it helps us too. I think it would be good if we can, to Mr. England's point. If we can't, then we stick with this date and, we'll see what happens. But I do think, if possible, since we have already had one meeting on a Tuesday, we're doing one on a Saturday, it would be good, I think, for the community if for the 3 remaining meetings, that one is not also on a Tuesday. There are people who work on Tuesdays that don't work on a Wednesday. So we want to show that we're trying to reach different people. We did a Saturday, we did 3 Tuesdays, and we're going to do a Wednesday or a Thursday.
May I, Mayor, quickly?
Please.
One other thing is we are being asked for dates the previous week in September, if I recall, for, again, another meeting, commission interviews. So if you're actually looking for 2 random, non-standard days, 2 weeks in a row, September, that's going to be difficult.
Vice Mayor.
As a single father with a shared custody situation, my calendar is very challenging because it's not up to me. There's other people involved. So my preference is to stick with the days that are proposed. Because those days are days that I've already cleared well in advance with the other parties.
But we have residents who also have limits on their schedules. So again, if there's no support, I do feel strongly about seeing if there's a non-Tuesday day for us to do it. If there isn't, then we work with what majority supports and we keep the 3 last meetings on the 3 Tuesdays, and we pick times and we manage the meeting and we try to do the best that we can. I do think it looks better, it works better. It's the intent to make sure you reach as many people. Having it on a non-Tuesday, because other people have schedules and limitations, and Tuesday may not work for everybody. And so just giving them another weekday option, I think, would be better. But if there's not enough support for it, then let's stick with this and make the best of the situation.
I'm willing to support looking. I'm just saying, I think it's very potentially impractical if we have 2 weeks in a row that we're looking for non-standard dates for meetings is all. So, but I'm certainly willing to try that.
What about August? So we kept talking about September. What about, instead of having the August 27th meeting be a Tuesday, having that be a non-Tuesday week? I'm trying to work for you guys.
So in other words, when we come back from break, have our first regular meeting, and then find another day. I think
we have to give it to Gabe tonight, though.
Oh.
I mean, I have my master calendar.
Yeah.
So the 27th is that Tuesday. Are we available on the Wednesday, the 28th, or the 29th?
So Wednesday the 28th is a complete streets meeting, according to the city's calendar.
What time, though?
6. The 29th, the Thursday the 29th, there's nothing on the city's calendar, nor is there anything on Saturday the 31st.
May I just comment that it's still summertime, people may be on vacation.
I mean, I feel like I'm auctioning. Can we do 4 p.m. on the 28th, the Wednesday? Because Complete Street starts at 6.
Where does Complete Streets meet? Do they meet here or do they meet in the center, community center?
Community center,
Do they?
Sequoia.
Mayor, can you do, I think Councilmember Liang said yes, can you do 4 PM on the 28th?
I think I can. Let me check my calendar. I was waiting for someone to say that won't work.
So, Councilmember Meadows?
Actually, I prefer we try to look at the September month and do it at 4 PM we cannot, yeah.
But
you
to
said.
Councilmember
So
Meadows' point,
there-
September is full with interviews.
Oh, okay.
This doesn't affect me, but there is a CHAC board meeting on calendar for Wednesday the 28th at 4:30.
Is CHAC still meeting?
Yeah, that's not happening.
Okay. So I can do 4 PM on Wednesday the 28th.
Yeah, I could too, I think.
Wait, let me look at that again.
Peter, you able to do that?
I'll make it work.
Okay, 4 PM.
Wednesday the 20th, 4 PM.
What I'd like to see is, because we're going to do the 24th here, can we do the August 27th at Grant Park again, so it looks like?
No, we're talking about doing August 28th instead of August 27th.
I mean, the 28th, and do it at Grant Park, so then when we do the presentation of maps and get community outreach, because we're on the 24th, we'll be doing it here, so it looks like we're being fair and doing outreach on both as much areas as we can.
No.
Because then.
No, so the September 24th, it's the results that we're presenting, not the draft map. So we're doing the draft maps on August 28th.
Okay. So August 28th at 4 PM. And that means you're saying we're doing it here at council chambers?
And
That's
does
what I
anyone
wanna
not,
know.
other than Councilmember Liang, does anyone want to do it anywhere else? Yeah,
I'm fine doing it here. I mean, you're doing community workshops, so you can do more.
Yeah, when we're
Then-
looking at the maps, I think we need the technology of this room. I would like to move the
That's
meetings
fine.
around, but I
Then
think
can we
need
make
it.
sure that it's a hybrid meeting, so then people can tune in virtually? Because our goal is to make sure that we do the most outreach and get people to obviously be able to see it, then I would appreciate it. We treat it like a regular, because it's being treated like a regular council meeting, and if we can
Yeah.
do it hybrid, I'd like to see that. And if we do it here, that's fine, but do it hybrid.
It will be available like all the other meetings, and it will be, you can watch and you can hear, but it will not be interactive.
Well, that's what I meant. Like we do our council meetings. Yes.
Okay, then.
But this
uh,
Saturday, when we do it at Grant, people will be able to watch, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I move that we
Mayor.
direct staff to hold districting meeting.
Sorry. We will confirm this date with outside counsel and with districting partners. And assuming that works, we can confirm it. We'll start advertising it. It's far enough in advance that I'm hopeful, but we'll need to clear this date with them. as
Okay.
well.
So is this discussion enough, or do you need a motion?
This is enough, Mayor.
Okay.
But I have a question then. What if, like you're saying, we're going to clear it with council? What if they come back and say it doesn't work? What is our next option?
Then-
Or what happens? I just,
If it doesn't work, we will figure something out. Worst case scenario, I will call a special meeting, so we will come back and talk about it. I believe that if it does, I believe it's going to work out. If it doesn't work out, then I believe we will find a way of correcting it. But worst case scenario, we will come back here and have this discussion again. Okay. This is a tough topic. Again, I want to thank my colleagues for their professionalism. I want to thank staff, the city attorney, the city manager, for your professionalism as well in helping us get through it and helping the community get through it. That leaves us with future agenda items and reports. Who'd like to go first? Anyone? Going once? Going twice?
Yeah, I have a future agenda item.
Okay.
I think the council should take up whether or not no parking signs should be implemented equitably across all the streets that are proximate to Los Altos High School and Mountain View High School. The current implementation is kind of partial and haphazard, and I think we ought to discuss making it uniform and equitable.
Councilmember Flagger?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Vice Mayor, I support the agenda item. I just want to broaden it so it's not, I support having an agenda item talking about parking restrictions. I do, but I don't want us to presume and preempt what it will be. So I support the idea of having a future agenda item that talks about this. And I feel like we've done this 3 or 4 times already. Okay.
We have.
I was just like.
We have done this in a general sense, and I don't oppose that at all. But I think we need to take specific action relative to how our no parking zones are deployed and enforced. So I don't mind if we have a more general conversation as long as we come out of it with action.
So I had a question on the Q&A because I thought this is where we proposed, we had a specific proposal that then was sort of broadened in the agenda item. I did listen, I agree, we did not change the nature of the proposal, but the proposal was exactly, is really to look at parking in an equitable way that can apply not just to Jarden, but to all cities, particularly all areas in the city, particularly impacted by school issues. So this is, I was told, the answer to the Q&A was, well, the future agenda item is what it was expressed as, which is true. But this is really getting at the fact that we need to have the discussion in the sense that allows us to come up with equitable and consistent solutions that will work across the city. So I will make a friendly amendment to that future agenda item because this is what we tried to say last time. Yes.
So, thank you, Council. That was heard and recorded last time. The draft staff report directly addresses no parking, how it's applied, and is broad enough to consider other solutions such as neighborhood parking, and how we do enforcement generally.
I think the only thing we can do, perhaps, maybe, is to weigh in on, maybe we want it to come back sooner. So that's the only thing, or we can encourage, if you want.
Sorry, it's currently scheduled at the next meeting.
Oh, okay, then that's soon enough. Very good.
August 27th.
Okay, then I have a future agenda item.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to agendize evaluating our city attorney, and I would like your support for this request.
And Councilmember, any other future agenda items?
Nope.
All right. I will make a brief report. I attended the city's fabulous 4th of July. I think that's the name. Glorious 4th of July, excuse me. My counterpart from Los Altos Hills, Mayor Stan Mock, was there. It was a wonderful event. City staff does a fantastic job with these celebrations. And I know no one from Parks and Rec is here right now, but it really is a joy and a pleasure. They're always well attended. The Old Town Band was there. It was a lot of fun. And if you're able to come next year, I highly recommend it because it really is a fun celebration and it makes you feel like you're in a small town, even though we're in a large urban environment outside of Shout Park. So shout out to staff. Please pass that on to Parks and Rec. And Councilmember Flagger?
I just remembered, so I, along with the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Liang, attended the swearing-in ceremony for our new chief. It was very quick and efficient, but well attended and uplifting and well done. So again, happy to have the chief on board. She gave an amazing speech. And I love when she says it's good to be back home. And thanks again to staff for putting together a great event.
Okay, and with that, we are adjourned.